Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Think With Me Thursday here at Effective. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Justin. Welcome. Glad to have you here with us today. I am excited today. I will just be completely honest with you. I feel like I'm getting my systems and my processes around productivity and my objectives and goals finally under control. The last year or two has just been a whirlwind. Actually, if I back up, probably the last 4 years have been an absolute whirlwind in regards to productivity systems and staying on track with goals and things of that sort. So it is good to feel like I'm going in the right direction. I've been spending a lot of time trying to get this sorted out for myself so that I can make sure that I'm tackling all of the things that are important to me. One tool that I just started trying out yesterday that I actually love, and I wasn't expecting to really love it. This obviously is just my very first impression of it because I haven't spent a lot of time with it yet. But that's Sunsama. Sunsama is a tool that you can use to pull in tasks from other tools. It integrates with Todoist, Notion, ClickUp, Asana, Trello, and more, so that you can plan your day accordingly. But I love the aesthetic and really actually the ethos of that software. It allows you to focus primarily on what's important to you, and the company is really designed it in a way to help people develop a sense of calm productivity, which I am all about. I'm not about trying to get the most stuff done in the day, but I am about trying to get the right stuff done, including making sure that I have time to take care of myself. Hey, Nick, welcome to the stream today. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you back. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Today on the stream, I've got a couple things lined up. First, we're going to dive into a topic, which is 5 tips that I use to help maintain focus, and hopefully you can glean some ideas from that. And then after that, I really just want to get into a bit of Q&A. I know I'm doing the stream a little earlier than usual today. Usually I do this about 1 o'clock my time, and it's 10 o'clock right now. It's just because I have some conflicts that unfortunately make that not possible. Awesome. Yeah, Nick, I love live stream video. And in fact, one of the things that I would love to do with this going forward is make this a show. So formalize it a little bit more, but still keep this same topic or this format in a sense where maybe we're talking about a specific subject area and then diving into questions about productivity, PKM, other things of that sort, so that, you know, I can be of service to you and then also be able to share that with other people as well. I want to be able to chunk up some of these live streams into clips to be able to help other people, because I know not everybody has time to sit down and watch an hour-long live stream. So glad to have you on the stream today. Thanks for joining. I see some more people joining too. Say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from if it's your first time, and we'll get going in just a moment here. Yeah, I've been really loving this. I mentioned it last week because last week was my first time using this new setup that I have here, and I absolutely love it. I reoriented my room so that my desk wasn't sitting in the middle of the room for video production. And I actually really like the depth that I have now back behind me. The lighting looks so much better. It's not all blaring on the wall right behind me and kind of making everything look flat. It's a little bit more dramatic, but I just really, really love the look. So let me know if you like how things are shaping up too for the stream. I've been really loving doing this. So I did it last week. I'll be completely honest with you. I did it last week, this stream. And then I couldn't wait to get back on the stream to do this again this week. Like, I was thinking about it and anticipating doing this stream right now all week long. So thank you all for making this a really fun experience, and I hope that you're enjoying it as well. Trying to figure out what to do with my coffee cup. Cool. Well, we're going to dive in here in just a second into our topic for the week. Think with me, Thursdays tend to be focused on three things at this moment in time. First, we'll kind of dive into a topic and explore an idea. This week, we're talking about 5 ways to help maintain focus, things that I do that maybe you can glean from. And then we get into some questions along the way. It could be anything from general questions about me or effective or productivity, personal knowledge management, challenges that you have. Anything that you want to talk about on the stream is fair game. And then if we have some time, we'll get into doing some articles. I have a fun thing I would like to show you today that's related to today's topic. But for now, we are going to dive into today's main focus, which is 5 tips to maintain focus. Have you ever found yourself in a place where you're just scattered all over? You can't seem to get your handle on everything in day-to-day life, where you're just reacting to things. I have been there so many different times, and over the course of the last 5 or so years, I've learned a few things that have helped me really hone in and stay focused on the things that matter the most to me. Let's start by one of the simplest things that you can do, which is to turn off your notifications on your phone and your devices. Notifications are the easiest way for outside actors to interrupt your day and your focus with things that are probably not more important than the thing that you're focusing on right now. This can be things like emails, text messages, text or chat applications that have notifications enabled. Literally anything that is not high value to you. So what I tend to do on my phone is I turn off every notification unless I absolutely need to have access to it. So for example, I'll turn off notifications on my phone for email, for literally every other application, except for like the messages app, the phone, and my calendar, because those are the things that I have deemed the most important to me. But then I also use kind of a tiered system for my phone and for my Apple Watch, because I want to allow more notifications through on my phone because I'm not interacting with it every single moment of the day. But I want fewer on my watch because these are the ones that are going to get to me immediately. And so if I have a notification from a news app on my phone that's pinging me on my watch, that's not something that I need to be seeing. And so I'm turning that off on my watch, but I might leave it on my phone. But a lot of times I don't have news apps. It's just an example. Step number 2 is to go kind of a little bit more of an extreme route than turning off your notifications, but that is to remove all feeds, all incoming sources of information from your phone. This is something that I have actually had to do to maintain mental clarity over the last few years. I've had to turn off Safari on my phone. I've had to turn off and remove email, remove social media, things of that sort, because I was finding that in those down moments, I was going to my email, I was going out to the web, I was going out to social media, and it was constantly drawing my attention to sources of input when my brain needed space to process on what it had already been focusing on during the day. Because when you shove input into your brain constantly, you don't have the space to process that information. And so removing sources of outside input from your phone, because that's the device that's with you all of the time, can really drastically improve your ability to focus. Because when you're not picking up Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram all the time in every down moment, your brain has a chance to process subconsciously on the things that it has been concerned about or thinking about throughout the day. And I noticed this, and let me give an example here. I put LinkedIn and email and other things on my phone, work-related stuff on my phone, when I was traveling for work a few weeks ago. And I left them on for about a week when I came back. And when I over the course of that week, I realized that this was causing me a problem. I was pulling out my phone all the time, for one. But two, I was just so much more anxious and concerned about what was going on in other places that were not right here. And so I was finding that my work quality was going down. I was finding that I was distracted and not present with my family. I was finding that my own mental space was gone. But when I removed those applications from my phone again, because I had them off my phone for quite a long time. When I removed them from my phone, one thing that it did after about 3 days was I noticed my brain starting to process on new ideas again. I was making new connections. And so if you're having trouble being creative, if you're having trouble feeling overwhelmed or anxious, maybe try that for a week by removing all of your work stuff, your social stuff from your phone, and seeing what happens. Now, obviously, there might be situations where you can't do that, but try to minimize the impact of having those things on your phone as much as possible. Number 3 is to get clear on your objectives. This is the one that's probably the hardest to do on this list because it involves cranking down and focusing on what's the most essential for you. And so when you have when you have clarity on the actions that matter most to you right now in the current season of your life, it's a lot easier to stay on track and on focus and do things that move the needle forward. So when you're not clear, what often tends to happen is you'll react. You'll react to emails coming in. You'll react to a new, shiny, interesting thing that you might be interested in checking out. You'll react to something that your family needs at this immediate moment, though. I mean, you kind of need to react to that anyway, but you'll react to nearly everything that's coming at you when you're not clear on where you're going. But when you're clear on where you're going, when you have objectives set for your personal life, your work life, all the different aspects and areas of your life, then it's a lot easier to say no to the things that are not important in this season, or at least set them aside for the time being. So, for example, in work, I'm really working at developing a couple of different marketing disciplines in the marketing department. And as a result of that, I have to be judicious about the work that I take on. If it doesn't fit into those efforts, then it might not be the thing that I need to focus on right now. And so being clear on your objectives is an extremely beneficial, but also very difficult way to maintain your focus over a period of time. On a daily level, though, number 4 is to plan, and specifically plan a highlight for your day. This idea comes from the book Make Time by John Zaratsky and Jake Knapp. Their thought is that, and I've seen this work too, and you can approach this in a lot of different ways. I like the idea of picking one main thing for your day. You can pick your 3 most important tasks, or tackling that most difficult thing in your day, eat that frog. But whatever it is to plan something, to say a benchmark, to say, if I get this thing done or these things done today, it will be a successful day. Because when you have a short, chunked list that you can work through, then it's a lot easier to focus on it. It's a lot easier to make sure that you're staying on track with it. And then you have an easy to use benchmark to say, was today a successful day? I know a lot of times when I pick 3 tasks, when I am focusing on those in a deep work session, say, I usually crank those out within 3, maybe 4 hours tops. But it's because I've defined the most important work for the day, and that frees me up to focus on other things or explore things throughout the rest of my day. But when I don't have this guiding principle of the most important work for the day, then what often happens is, again, I start to react. And reacting, while it can move the needle forward, sometimes you're scattered. And so your efforts are in many different places instead of focused in one. And then lastly, number 5, tip to maintain focus is don't focus at all. That seems a little counterintuitive, doesn't it? But this comes from the point of, if you have struggles focusing, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to go take care of yourself. Maybe you need a snack. Maybe you need to eat some food. Maybe you need to go for a run. It's not so clear cut that you just need to plan everything out, have your objectives clear, turn off all distractions, get into deep work mode, and then you're good for focus. There are so many other elements at play here. And when you notice your brain fighting against focus, maybe it's time to embrace that. Brains don't necessarily get tired, but they do need changes in stimuli, changes in activity. And so if you've been hammering away on a creative activity for a period of time, or even just working for a period of time, and you're having a difficult time focusing, maybe it's time to shift and do something else for a while. Maybe that's letting yourself just scroll Twitter. Maybe that's letting yourself go outside for a walk and just sit in the sun. Maybe that's letting yourself just go lay down and read a book. Whatever that might be, do know that your brain likes to tell you what you need. And so it's okay to embrace that sometimes. But I would like to hear from you. What are you thinking? What works for you when it comes to making focus happen in your life? Do let me know in the chat or in the comments below if you're watching this after the fact. Hey, Darren, welcome to the stream today. Happy to have you here. Focus is something I think is just super important. I think especially as we get more and more into technology and more feeds are being built into our personal and work lives, being able to shut out the distraction is really important. But as I mentioned too, it's also very important to allow yourself space to recharge. And sometimes that's about defocusing. Chris Bailey gets into this in his book, Hyperfocus. He talks about two different states that we need to be in. We need to be in a hyperfocus state where one thing is consuming all of our attentional space in our brain. And then we also need a scatter focus state where our brain is focusing on many different things at once. A lot of times when we're in a scatter focus state, much of the work our brain is doing is subconscious. It can happen when we sleep. It can happen when we're just daydreaming. It can happen when we're in the shower, which is why we get all those awesome shower thoughts. So it's important to make sure that we give space to both of these modes of operation in the day. Nick says, I like Steve Jobs' highlight about focus. Focusing is about saying no. Yes, completely agree. And I would extend that to say that you can't say no unless you know what you're for or what you're saying yes to. So when you're clear on what your yes is in life or in your work or in your job, then it's a lot easier to be clear on what you're saying no to. So saying yes is saying no to a lot of things. And so you have to be judicious about what you're saying yes to, but it also makes saying no a heck of a lot easier. What are some other things that you are using to or thinking about in regards to focus? I think I know Cal Newport is a big one in the focus world. Nir Eyal, I haven't really read any of his works, but I know he's really big in the realm of focus with his book Indistractable. Chris Bailey, obviously, a lot of productivity thinkers are really heavy on focus. One of the other things that I've been thinking a lot about focus too is that we tend to put it so much in a work context. Like focus and deep work is for work. But in reality, focus is something that we need in every area of our lives. Because if we can't focus on being present with those that we care about the most, then we're having a more difficult time investing in those relationships. If we can't focus on a hobby, then we're not necessarily doing the best that we can in investing in that hobby. If we can't focus while driving, then we're going to run into problems while driving. Focus, I think, is something that is a fixture of human life that unfortunately some of the technology that we're using is warring against that, or is trying to pull on that in ways that it's maybe not the healthiest to do. And so we have to kind of make a stand on what we're going to allow pull our focus and not. There's a book that I was just reading and I can't remember the name of it. Oh man. Matthew Crawford. Here real quick. The World Beyond Your Head. I'll put a link to this in the chat. This, I will be honest, is a really hefty read. And I've only made it partway through the book. It's very philosophical in nature, but there's a lot of good ideas around the social constructs of attention and focus, and how it's not just an individual problem, it's a societal problem, because we have these common spaces where focus or where our attention is wanted, but we've kind of allowed outside actors into those spaces to demand our attention. And so it's a discussion in the book of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate from more of a philosophical, societal standpoint view. It's very interesting, but like I mentioned, it can be a little bit of a tough read over time. Definitely recommend it though if you want something more on the intellectual end of talking about focus. So what are you guys thinking about today? Nick's asking, you restreaming on other platforms this stream? Yeah, I have it going on my Twitter account at Think Effective. I think, yeah, _Think Effective is what it is. And then I have it going on my personal LinkedIn. And so that's where it's broadcasting out. And then here on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube. I'm using a service called Restream.io for this, and I think it works exceptionally well. I've been really enjoying using the Restream Studio that they have. I was using OBS prior to run the stream, but Restream Studio has been really nice. Hey, Nicholas, welcome. Nicholas is a personal friend of mine, so glad to have you here on the stream. We're chatting a little bit about focus today. And so, I just kind of went through 5 different subjects or areas where I try to help maintain my focus. Nicholas is an artist, by the way. And if you love illustrations and things of that sort, go check out his stuff. He's incredible. So be sure to look him up on YouTube. He's also got a website. I believe it's nicholasjackson.art. Oh, correct me. My internet's not working, apparently. Yep, that's what it is. Yeah, so it's talking about focus. It's really important to be able to focus. A lot of the value of work that we get comes from developing a place of focus. Being able to hone in and say, I'm going to work on this one thing for an hour or 90 minutes. And then I'm going to do that until it's done repeatedly over the course of a number of days, can yield higher quality results and just overall better results from the work that we're doing, because we're using all of our brain space for that. I've actually been having a hard time doing this a lot lately with focusing, because my attention has been pulled so many different ways from having a family and a job and doing these live streams and building relationships in my local community and all of that. It can be really difficult to maintain a proper level of focus in so many different areas. I know James Clear, who's an author, he wrote Atomic Habits. I remember coming across this post quite a long time ago. He's got where it describes the 4 burner theory. And basically you have 4 different burners in your life. You have your friends, your family, your work, and your health, I think. Let me look this up. And yep, health, work, friends, and family is what it is. And The thought is that you can really only run 2 of those burners at any one time effectively, and you have to turn the other ones down, or you have to turn them off for a season. So if you're working and focusing on your health and your work, family and friends will have to take a backseat. Or if you're focusing on building friendships and family, your health and work will have to take a backseat. So we're talking physical health here, not mental and emotional health necessarily. And so it can be a little tricky to navigate balancing focus over the course of life. But this is why we have tools that we can use, like the Wheel of Life. I'm a big fan of using Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life to do a periodic assessment of where my life is at. And the reason that I do this is so that I can understand, after being head down for, say, 3 or 4 months, pursuing the objectives that I've set myself towards, that I can come up for air and say, okay, where am I really at right now? Am I healthy? Am I not healthy? Are my finances good? Are my family relationships good? Am I having enough fun in my life? Is my work satisfying? Is my personal growth at a good point? And then I can start to identify the top 2 areas and the bottom 2 areas. The top 2 areas are probably ones that I can pull back on a little bit. And the bottom 2 are areas that I need to spend time focusing on. And the Wheel of Life is really just a visual exercise to be able to get that high level view. And so having a routine of being able to do something like this, I think, is really beneficial to focus as well. Simply for the reason that when you know the areas that you need to attend to in your life, you can set goals for them or just decide what you're going to do about it. And then you can act, and then you can check in with yourself later. One of the challenges with setting these kinds of goals, and I know people run into, and having focus over a long period of time, really is the fact that we tend to measure progress on such short time scales. We tend to look at, did I lose weight today? Did I lose weight this week? Using an exercise example. But in reality, we should be looking at, did we lose weight this month? Did we lose weight the last 6 months? Because the cumulative effort is usually what results in what we're looking for. It's not the daily effort, but it's the cumulative repeated effort in a direction that gets us on the path where we want to go. But it's not always the easiest to do that because we want to see something tangible. We want to feel like we're making progress in a direction. And when we don't see those results, then that can be a little challenging. So anyway, when we have these broader goals, when we have these objectives set, when we have a clear picture of where our lives are at and where we need to invest our energies the most, then it's a heck of a lot easier to maintain that kind of focus over the course of time. One thing I want to do today is share my screen. I got to rearrange a couple things here, so bear with me just a moment. But I wanted to look at LinkedIn post that I just came across literally right before this stream. I thought it was so interesting. I'm going to pull my screen up here and share it with you. From a guy that I follow on LinkedIn, Cody West. I just thought this was really interesting relating to the concept of focus that we're talking about today. He uses a daily reminder document and he goes into the template that he used. And I think the ideas that he has in here are fantastic. It's actually something that I am going to implement because being able to have a bead on what needs to happen, some ideas on if I'm feeling off for the day and things that I can do to mitigate that, what my goals and objectives are, and just keeping that top of mind every day can really help stay on track over the course of the long term. So he says it literally only takes him 5 minutes every day to do this. So first, he lists off the weekly must happen, 1 to 3 tasks that if he completes would make the week a win. A feeling off section to have a checklist of reminders to go through: sleep, drinking enough water, scheduling enough nothing time or margin, like I would call it, being able to identify the things in your life that help recharge you and keep you healthy, the maintenance items for not just the maintenance items for your productivity system or for making sure that your house is clean, but the maintenance items to make sure you are able to keep doing what you need to do and take care of what you need to take care of is a really great idea. Defining the rules for the game of life. So he writes down any rules that he's following in this section to keep him disciplined. So, for example, food's only allowed at the table, so he's present when he eats. Right, do strategic analytics and listen to a sales call every weekday, and 1 cup of coffee per day. I can relate to that one, frankly. If I have more than 1 cup of coffee a day, I am not usually in a good spot emotionally and things of that sort. It's usually like my physical body is just like, ugh. Things to keep top of mind: lead with curiosity, share what I'm learning, seek first to understand, and then early and often how to coach and give feedback. If you're a leader, for example, this can be really helpful. Current priorities, 2 to 3 things at a time, short-term and long-term goals, and then core principles to live by, and then long-term skills to build. I think that if a person can list down all of these things and revisit them on a regular basis, you're set up for a lot of success. So much of productivity in the world is focused, and personal development is focused on tactical things, such as how do you capture tasks? Where do you capture tasks? How do you organize your projects? How do you organize your personal knowledge management system in Obsidian? How do you do all of these tactical things? But what I think is neat about what Cody has here is he's distilled down the most important stuff into one document. That if you make some changes to it, make it a living document, and review it every single day, that you will probably tackle 80% or more of what is important to you and really what you need to do when it comes to productivity and effectiveness. So I like I said, I am going to adopt this. I'm going to develop this. I think it's a great idea. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat if you're interested in checking out this. It's actually been really fun because I've been following a lot of people on LinkedIn lately, just because I think it's a fun social network to hang out on. I think there's a lot of potential there that is yet untapped, whereas Facebook has really become saturated. So is Twitter. It's just none of those really line up with where I want to go in life. But LinkedIn really has a lot of very high quality influencers and content creators on there. And so if you're not there, I recommend checking it out. What else do we have for today? What's on your mind? I know I usually get quite a bunch of people in at the 1 o'clock hour, but I had to jump down a few hours earlier today. And so I would love to hear your questions about productivity, note taking, the future of work, how to be effective, whatever is on your mind. Shoot them into the chat. We'll talk about them live on stream here today. Let's see if I can find anything else interesting to share with you. I didn't really have much for articles that I'd captured in the last week where I was like, oh yeah, well, this one isn't too bad. We'll go through this. Pull it up on screen. It's kind of relating to the goal setting question. Objectives and key results. Super fun, huh? All right, I've got my Readwise highlighter ready. If you haven't watched the stream before, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through just an article, and I'm going to highlight it using the Readwise highlighter. And Readwise is a service that allows you to save highlights from Kindle books, articles on the web, and more. Put it in a centralized place. Review it on a regular basis using their spaced repetition algorithm, and then also sync those highlights into a permanent storage spot such as Obsidian, Notion, Roam Research, and more. If you're interested in checking out Readwise, there's a link in the description to my affiliate sign up. You also get an extra 30 days in your trial. You go from 30 days to 60 days in your trial if you use that link to sign up. No pressure to do that, though. Just if you want to support the channel and you do decide to subscribe to Readwise, that's one way that you can do that. So objectives and key results is something that I have been focusing on a lot recently, just because I realized that normal goal setting doesn't work for me, but also the mode that I was taking for trying to make progress in certain areas wasn't working as well. And so using OKRs, I think has really been something that's allowed me to crystallize more clearly what a proper objective really is for me and how I can tactically pursue that. And so we're going to just dive through this article by Todoist about OKRs as a productivity method. And we'll just kind of dig into the specifics. I'll do some highlighting. If you have questions on it, pop them in the chat. We'll talk about it live on stream. And then also I'll just do some talking about the things that I am learning and thinking about while reading through it. So the interesting thing about OKRs is they tend to be a data-driven framework, and they're okay for personal goals. What's interesting is I'm not a very data-driven person, but the concept of OKRs makes a lot of sense to me. So these were created by John Doerr. He has a book called Measure What Matters. If you're interested in diving into that, I haven't read that. I've just used some articles that I found on the web about this. OKRs are objectives and key results. Objectives describe where you're going. Key results are how you get there. So you can also think of it as your objective is your goal, your end result. The key results are your milestones or the small pieces that you need to focus on to get there. What I like about this approach is that your key results don't have to be step A, step B, step C, and so on. It can be a variety of actions that coalesce into the results that you're looking for. So for effective, for example, one of the things that I am aiming to do is to reach our subscriber base, our membership base on thinkeffective.co, our new membership website, up to 250 people. And at that point, then I want to start looking at what would be beneficial for folks, to offer as something of a paid membership. What would you find helpful in that? Do you want it to just be a place to support the channel and what we're doing here? Do you want monthly coaching calls, things of that sort? But once I get to that point, then I want to explore with the people who have signed up for the free membership on my site what a paid membership that might look like. And so if you sign up at thinkeffective.co, be looking for that in the future, because I would love to get your input on what that could look like. So those are examples of some key results. Another way to look at key results is, say you have an objective that you want to launch a product at work. And then your key results all focus on the different aspects of those products. So it's not just an ABC goal, a stepped process, but it can be product and design and marketing and all of these behaviors and actions that need to happen to get that to happen. Or it can be solely data driven and say you want to have an increase of the number of signups for your newsletter. Well, what are the actions that you need to take to make sure that that happens? Objectives and key results, OKRs, can be really flexible to the different needs that you have. So here's an example OKR in the article. Objective is to run a marathon in under 4 hours. Key results are join a marathon training group, train 5 days a week with one long run per week, increase mileage by 5 miles per week, drink at least 3 liters of water every day, sleep at least 8 hours every night. So these are all things, activities that lead into the objective to run a marathon in under 4 hours. So you need both. That's what it's saying here. Objectives and key results. Without key results, objectives are just wishes. Without objectives to ground them in a higher strategy and purpose, key results are just a directionless to-do list. And this is what's drawn me towards OKRs. I have had a difficulty myself trying to keep myself on focus and on point with the things that I am doing. I felt like I was doing a lot of different things in a lot of different areas that I was kind of moving the needle forward on, but being able to have something solid, an objective to come back to that I can align my to-do list with, my actions with, has been helping me focus on what matters most. I'm going to skip through some of these examples here. So timelines for OKRs is also really interesting. 1 to 3 months, Door says, is the sweet spot. You can have overlapping timelines. You might have longer term OKRs for, say, the year, and then break those down into quarterly or even monthly OKRs. That's really interesting. I haven't done that. I've actually set my OKRs. A few of them are for the year, and a couple of them are for shorter time scales, such as 6 months, because then I can reevaluate from there. But I like this idea of having a broad OKR. However, personally, I prefer to use yearly themes over OKRs for that, solely for the reason that a theme is much broader. It contextualizes everything that I am aiming on and focusing on for the year instead of just my professional goals or just my personal goals. So my theme for this year is the year of rebuilding. It's focused on rebuilding things that needed to be rebuilt and building new things. And so I have a couple of different spokes that I have built off of that define that a little bit more. But really, that theme is what has sourced my focus for these OKRs that I have in development. So it's just solidified. The OKRs have taken a theme that's a little bit more nebulous and some ideas about what that theme looks like, and then the OKR has solidified what that theme could be realized. I guess is probably the way to put it. It's taken it and put it is been really interesting. Nick's got a comment here. I found that focusing has direct relation to default mode network of the brain, so the tip to turn off notifications is necessary. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't know too much about the default mode network. I think I remember Chris Bailey talking about that in Hyperfocus, but it's been a number of years since I read that book. But that's a really good idea. I'm actually going to note that down to take a look at that and do a little more research. I don't have to do a setup properly on my laptop here yet, so I got to do that. So I can capture things. What makes OKRs effective? I like what they say here. It's not the framework that makes it successful, but it's the mindset behind it. Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. When your phone beeps, the facts are loaded to the default mode network, are unloaded immediately. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's yeah. Okay, I'm connecting the ideas now. Um, that makes a lot of sense, especially in regard to um why it takes so long to regain focus after you're interrupted, because your brain just dumps everything to the default mode network then, and it has to bring it back. So OKRs create focus, alignment, accountability, and growth. So tenets for making OKRs work. Less is more. Okay, this makes sense. I think if anybody's been in productivity for a period of time, you probably understand that you really can't focus on anything more than a couple of primary priorities at one time. I mean, the ideal is one priority, but that's not always the case. Set goals from the bottom up. Just highlight this here because I think that's important. So from an organizational context, this makes sense. Set goals from the bottom up. When the people at the lowest level of decision making are involved, there's a heck of a lot more buy-in than if, say, the CEO says, "This is what we're doing," and you've got to get on board. There's a lot more cohesiveness in an organization if all levels of decision making are involved in the process of making decisions. Yeah, this is good stuff here too. Some misconceptions about it. You don't have to be data savvy. It can literally just be some kind of a measurement. No, Nick, don't worry about interrupting me at all. This is part of the stream. We get to just interact live while we're doing this. This is actually why I do this live, is because I like having the conversations in the middle of it. So if we go off on a rabbit trail, I don't really care. The stream is for being able to interact with people. That's why I do it. And so thank you for your input. I really like it. It's really helpful. Measurable means numbers, not necessarily. So I'm going to connect this with the idea of like GTD. Because it's all about making tasks actionable and projects with a clear idea of the end result. So it's the principle is really the same for an OKR. And a key result is measurable by even just saying that you have the final design spec with buy-in from the team by April 15th. So you have an outcome that is measurable. You have a timeline there. You don't necessarily need to have a timeline, but you have a timeline there in this one in particular. And it can be a lot more flexible, but it's also measurable. Did we hit it or did we not? Just having some kind of nebulous idea of figure out a design spec is not really a key result, but creating it and having buy-in by a certain time frame is a heck of a lot more measurable. Re-highlight this. I messed it up. OKRs should be used to shine a spotlight on just the most important work you need to do to move toward your objectives. Yes. And then this just gets into the specifics on how to set it up in Todoist. I'll put this link in the chat if you're interested in taking a look at it. Basically, to sum it up, OKRs can use a variety of different structures. Probably the simplest one is to use like sections in here to say like your objective is the project, and then your key results are either sections or tasks in there. The way I have it set up in my Todoist account is I have the objective, a short name objective as the project title. I have a section for an objective at the top, and I have the objective as a task that I cannot check off, which you can do pretty easily by just appending an asterisk at the beginning of the task in Todoist. And then I have another section below that with key results, and I have those listed off as tasks that can be completed. Now, if there are specific projects that tie up into an OKR, I actually have a tag called objective, or a label rather, in Todoist, so that those projects that are in other areas in my Todoist account can all be pulled into one, so I can see, okay, these are all the things that are moving the needle forward for objectives. So I can, if I want to push the needle forward in any one area, I can pick one of these things to work on right now. So that's one thing that you can do. Yeah, that's really about it from that article. I think OKRs, if you're interested in checking them out, are a really helpful way to kind of get yourself in alignment. It can be for your team, it can be for yourself. If you're having struggles doing that, then I definitely recommend trying to figure that out. For a person, I would recommend starting with a theme, so you can get a broad idea of where you're going to be at for the year. Then I would move into trying to define 2, maybe 3 objectives for the next quarter or the next 6 months. Could be the year as well, just depends on what it is. And then from there, start organizing your work to funnel your efforts toward achieving those objectives. It doesn't have to be pressured. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be something that is crazy, or hard or anything like that. It's just the measured, consistent action toward a specific objective will more than likely get you there at some point. I'm very much not for pressured, time-bound goals. I do not like them. They cause me to feel like I have failed in some regard when I don't meet them. It causes me to feel frustrated when life changes and the goal has to change. But when I have something that I can hold a little bit more loosely, but it still points me in a direction, I think that's a really positive, helpful thing. I'm going to wrap up the live stream in just a few minutes here, but I definitely am open to having any more questions or thoughts, things that you're thinking about in regards to productivity, personal knowledge management, future of work, whatever it is that's on your minds today. Do pop them in the chat. If you're catching this on the replay, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to get back to you or cover a topic in a future stream. One thing that I'm also considering doing is having some kind of a form that you can fill out so that you don't have to be on the stream to get your question answered. But then if you are, say, coming in late, or if you want to catch the replay, or if you want to catch one of the clips later on, that those questions can be answered there as well. Plus, it just gives us a good backlog of questions that people are asking. I can start to see patterns there too, and maybe design more content on the channel as well around those subjects. So that's something I'm considering. Do let me know if you think that would be helpful. I'll probably start doing that in the next few weeks as I start to ramp up this effort toward just trying to build a cohesive show out of these live streams. Yeah, Nick, you are very welcome. Thanks for being here and sharing your ideas as well. I see this as a team effort. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the perspectives. I can't. But all of us together, we can make something out of it and try to figure out a path forward together. So yeah, I guess just on a completely other note here to round out this stream, I'm finally excited that it feels like spring where I live. um, the weather has been so challenging the last few excuse me. The weather's been so challenging the last few weeks. Actually, the past few months, just because it's been so cold, so dreary for so long. But now it feels warm outside. 2 months ago, if it hit 30 degrees, it felt freezing. But now it's at a point where 30, 35 degrees, even 20 degrees, is starting to feel warm. There's just a shift in the air that you feel, when the seasons change. And we're finally at that point. And it's getting me really excited because I really, really like warm weather. And I live somewhere that gets really cold in the wintertime. And so it's one of those things. If that's been a challenge for you, because it's affected my productivity, it's affected my ability to focus, it's affected my overall feeling of well-being, being in such a cold and dreary place for so long. And it was just a long winter overall too. So if that's you, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But anyway, we're going to wrap up the stream here today. I do thank you all for joining. Thanks for coming along. We'll do these usually every Thursday, depending on if I have a conflict. Usually they're at 1 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Today I had to push it a little earlier just because I had some conflicts come up over that hour. But love to have you here. And just to close out too, if you want to stay connected with what we're doing at Effective, head on over to our website at thinkeffective.co and sign up for our free membership. I send newsletters out letting you know when these live streams are happening. You'll get updates on whatever content that we're producing, whether it be blog posts or articles, blog posts or videos rather. And then also, I'm planning on having some kind of a paid membership feature in the future. So if you sign up today, you'll be one of the first ones to get access to a discounted early bird membership rate when that happens. And plus, you'll also be able to help me figure out and define what that looks like. Again, Justin with Effective here today. Thanks for watching, joining on this stream, and stay effective until we talk the next time. Cheers.